The clatter of cutlery echoed through the posh restaurant as the door swung open and a man in dusty shoes stepped in. Heads turned instantly. The air smelled of roasted chicken and expensive wine, yet his presence brought a silence that cut through the hum of conversation. David Okoro paused just past the entrance, clutching his old brown wallet in one hand, scanning for an empty seat. He looked exhausted, his shirt slightly wrinkled, his trousers faded, his shoes scuffed like they'd seen many roads. He took a step forward. The security guard near the counter frowned, but didn't say anything. A waitress with a sharp ponytail and heavy perfume noticed him. Her name tag read, Grace. She blinked twice, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, then walked briskly toward him. "Excuse me, sir," she said, lowering her voice. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" David's brows furrowed slightly. "I'm here to eat. Is that not allowed?" Grace shifted her weight from one heel to the other. "Of course, sir, but this is Eden Lounge. Our minimum order is 25,000 naira. She smiled sweetly, though her tone was sharp. "There's a food court just across the street. More affordable, you know?" David chuckled quietly. "Thank you, but I'll stay here." Something about his calmness irritated her. Grace hesitated, then motioned reluctantly to a corner table near the restroom. "Fine. That one's available." David walked there, unbothered. Conversations resumed, though whispers floated around. A man in a suit leaned toward his companion and murmured, "These days, anyone can just walk in here." The woman giggled, hiding her smile behind a wine glass. David sat down, opened the menu, and scanned the list. He asked softly, "Could I get a bottle of water while I decide?" Grace didn't answer immediately. She looked at him again, frowning. His phone screen was cracked, his wristwatch scratched. She sighed. "We don't serve bottled water to every table until an order is confirmed, sir." He looked up slowly, his gaze steady. "Then bring me the chef's special, and please, the water." Grace blinked, surprised. "The chef's special?" she repeated, almost laughing. "It's quite pricey, sir." David nodded once. "That's fine." She forced a tight smile and walked off, muttering, "All right then, if you say so." Minutes passed. David sat alone, his posture calm, scrolling through his phone. Grace deliberately served 2 other tables before returning with his water. She placed it on his table a bit too hard. "Here," she said, twisting the cap. "The chef's special will take some time." "Thank you," he said gently. Something in his tone made her pause for half a second, but she brushed it off. Soon, her friend and coworker Mary walked by and whispered, "Grace, why's that man sitting there? He looks broke." Grace shrugged. "I tried to stop him. Some people just don't know their level." Mary giggled. "Watch, he'll probably order 1 drink and stay all day." Grace rolled her eyes. "If he can even pay." Meanwhile, David quietly observed everything. Every glance, every whisper. He wasn't angry, he was simply watching. When Grace returned with his plate, steaming grilled fish and plantain, she placed it before him with exaggerated politeness. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy." David smiled faintly. "Thank you." He ate slowly, savoring each bite, even as other customers stole glances at him. Halfway through his meal, a man in a crisp blue suit entered. The manager, Mr. Collins, rushed to greet him. "Sir, you're welcome. Your table is ready." The man nodded. "Our guest of honor is on his way, right?" "Yes, sir," the manager said. "We've prepared everything. He said he'd be here shortly." Grace overheard them and asked curiously, "Who's coming?" "The philanthropist funding the Youth Empowerment Project," Mr. Collins whispered. "Apparently, he's meeting the Minister of Commerce here today. Big deal. The man's worth billions, but nobody's seen his face in public." Grace's eyes widened. "Wow, I hope he's not one of those proud types." Mr. Collins smiled. "I heard he's humble, actually." At that moment, David raised his hand slightly to request the bill. Grace hesitated, pretending not to notice. He called out again, more firmly, "Excuse me, please." Sighing, she walked over. "Yes, sir? Can I get my bill?" She smirked a little. "Of course." She typed something into her tablet and printed the receipt. Handing it over, she said, "That'll be 32,500 naira." "Thank you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his old wallet. Grace tilted her head, curious. He brought out his card, a platinum credit card. Her smile faltered for a second. He handed it to her. "You take cards, right?" "Yes, sir," she stammered. She took the card, scanning it through the POS machine. The transaction went through instantly. When she returned the card, David said quietly, "You were quick to judge, Miss Grace." Her throat tightened. I didn't mean. He waved gently. It's fine. Before she could respond, the door opened again and two black SUVs parked outside. Security guards stepped in. Mr. Collins rushed forward, almost stumbling. He's here. Everyone, please stay professional. The room buzzed with excitement. Grace straightened her uniform, smoothing her hair. Cameras appeared at the door. The Minister of Commerce himself entered, tall, confident, surrounded by aides and reporters. He scanned the room, then smiled broadly when his eyes landed on David. He walked straight to him. Mr. Okoro, he exclaimed. I hope you weren't kept waiting too long. The restaurant fell silent. Grace froze completely, her hands trembling. David stood, shaking the minister's hand firmly. No, sir, David said warmly. I was just finishing lunch. The manager blinked. Wait, you're Mr. Okoro? The minister laughed. The man behind the Youth Empowerment Fund. We've been trying to meet him for weeks. Grace's knees nearly buckled. Mary's mouth dropped open. The customers who had whispered earlier exchanged shocked looks. Cameras flashed as journalists started recording. David smiled politely, greeting the officials one by one. Please, let's sit, he said calmly. We can discuss the program here. The minister nodded eagerly, motioning to the waiter. Bring the best wine in the house, on my tab. Grace could barely breathe. Shame burned through her chest like fire. Every word she had said replayed in her mind. You might want to try the canteen across the street. Her lips trembled as she stood near the counter, clutching her tray. She wanted to disappear. Mr. Collins hurried over, stammering, Sir, we didn't know. Please forgive any misunderstanding earlier. David turned to him with a calm smile. No worries, I received excellent service. His eyes lingered briefly on Grace. She lowered her gaze instantly, her heart pounding. Miss Grace, David said softly, could we get some more water, please? Her hands shook as she nodded. Yes, sir, right away. She walked toward the kitchen like a ghost, every step heavier than the last. Hey, if this story has your heart racing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. More powerful stories like this every week. Grace returned with the water, placing it gently on the table. David thanked her again, his voice calm but piercingly kind. She could hardly meet his eyes. He turned back to the minister, discussing details of a nationwide youth scholarship plan. Every sentence he spoke carried humility and intelligence. The same man she'd mocked minutes ago now commanded the room effortlessly. Grace swallowed hard, wishing she could rewind time. Grace's mind spiraled as she stood near the counter, pretending to wipe a spotless glass. Every laugh from their table hit her like a wave of guilt. She had seen rich men before, loud, arrogant, flashy, but David was different. His humility unsettled her more than his wealth. He spoke softly, smiled genuinely, and even thanked her every time she brought something. It wasn't pity, it was grace. The meeting went on for nearly 30 minutes. The minister's laughter filled the air. Mr. Okoro, your contribution will change thousands of lives, he said proudly. David replied, It's not just about the money, it's about respect, giving people a chance no matter where they come from. Grace felt that line like a dagger to her heart. Mary whispered beside her, Grace, that's him, the billionaire you talked back to. Stop reminding me, Grace muttered, her voice trembling. I wish the ground would just swallow me. Mary bit her lip, half amused, half terrified. What if he reports you? Grace closed her eyes, shaking her head. He won't. That's the sad part. He's too kind to. At the far end of the restaurant, David stood up to leave. His convoy was ready. He shook hands with the minister one last time and turned to Mr. Collins. Thank you for the hospitality. Your staff is spirited. Mr. Collins forced a laugh, his eyes darting nervously toward Grace. We're honored to have you, sir. Please come again anytime. David nodded, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. For your staff, he said, a token of appreciation. The manager's eyes widened. Oh, thank you, sir. As David turned to go, he paused. His gaze met Grace's across the room. She froze. The restaurant seemed to vanish around her. He walked toward her slowly, each step deliberate. Every eye followed. Grace could barely breathe. When he stopped in front of her, she blurted, Sir, I'm so sorry for how I treated you earlier. David tilted his head slightly. For what, Grace? Her voice cracked. I judged you. I spoke to you like you didn't matter. I shouldn't have. He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, softly, he said, Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how we grow from them. Tears welled in her eyes. You're too kind, sir. David smiled faintly. No one's too poor to sit anywhere, Grace. Remember that. She nodded, unable to speak. He reached into his wallet again and placed something on the counter, a thick wad of cash and his business card. Here, he said. Use this to take a course. Hospitality management, maybe. You've got potential, but you need confidence that doesn't come from judging others. Grace stared at the card as though it were gold. Sir, I can't take this. You can, he replied firmly. Think of it as an investment, not in money, in people. For the first time, she smiled through her tears. Thank you, sir. I'll never forget this. David nodded. Make sure the next person who walks in here feels seen, not measured. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The security guard who had eyed him earlier now opened the door with exaggerated respect. Outside, his convoy gleamed under the sun and photographers clicked rapidly. As the SUVs pulled away, the restaurant remained in stunned silence. Even the customers who had mocked him earlier looked ashamed. Mr. Collins clapped awkwardly and said, All right, everyone, back to work. But no one moved. Grace stood still, clutching the business card like a lifeline. She read the embossed name aloud in disbelief. David Okoro, founder Okoro Foundation. Mary whispered, Girl, that's the guy funding schools all over Nigeria. You talked down to him? Grace covered her face, half crying, half laughing. I'm finished. Mary nudged her gently. At least he didn't yell? That's a blessing. Grace nodded weakly. No, that's grace. Pure grace. If you felt the power of this story so far, take a moment, hit that like button, drop a comment about what lesson hits you most, and subscribe for more stories that move the heart. Weeks later, Grace enrolled in an online course in hospitality management using part of what David gave her. Every time she studied, she remembered his calm voice. You've got potential. Months passed, and fate brought them face to face again. It was at a large youth empowerment gala in Abuja. Grace was part of the catering team assigned to serve guests. She was nervous, but confident now, her uniform neat, her smile genuine. When David arrived, surrounded by dignitaries, Grace's heart leapt. She didn't expect him to notice her among hundreds, but when their eyes met, he smiled instantly. Grace, he said warmly, walking over. How's the course? Her jaw dropped. You remember me? How could I forget, he chuckled. You've got the same determined eyes. She laughed softly. I passed, sir. I'm now managing a small cafe in Surulere. I just came to assist here for the event. That's wonderful, he said, beaming. I'm proud of you. Her eyes glistened. You changed my life, sir. I was lost that day, angry, tired, bitter. I thought people like you never noticed people like me. David shook his head. We all notice. The question is whether we choose to care. She hesitated, then said, I'll never treat anyone the way I treated you again. He smiled. That's all I ever wanted. A photographer nearby captured the moment, Grace and David smiling side by side. The next day, the picture went viral with the caption, From waitress to cafe owner, the woman who learned not to judge too soon. In the comments section, people debated, shared tears, and sent prayers. Grace's cafe soon became a local favorite, not because of its decor, but because of the warmth she gave to every customer. Whenever someone walked in wearing old clothes or looking unsure, she'd greet them first with a smile and say, Welcome, please have a seat. Sometimes, late at night, she'd scroll through her phone and read that article again. The memory of David's words always echoed softly in her heart. No one's too poor to sit anywhere. And though she never saw him again after that gala, she kept his business card framed behind the counter of her cafe, a silent reminder of the day her pride met kindness and lost. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away. Hit the like button, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more true-to-life stories that inspire change. Because kindness, no matter how small, can rewrite someone's story forever.